Hey guys, so an hour to 2 hours later, I'm now going to do my Western final video. I just did a few chores, kind of relaxed a bit, and now I'm kind of tired because I just vacuumed a bunch of shit and now I'm exhausted. It's 1:30, I don't know when my sister will be back, so I just want to get into this like right away. So obviously the last game, Calgary obviously didn't play a last game, like a last playoff game, but Winnipeg won 23-18. So it was definitely a closer game than the BC Hamilton one. And this one, I assume, will be another really good one, Winnipeg-Calgary. I do kind of see Calgary taking it, just kind of like giving my prediction like right away, but yeah. So now it's going to be Winnipeg versus Calgary, Sunday, November 18th at 4:30 p.m. So let's just get right into it. So their records. So let's start with the records. So Winnipeg, 11-8 including the playoffs, 10-8 not including the playoffs. Calgary is 13-5. They don't have any playoff games yet, so they're just like 13-5 in the regular season, which is still like a really good record, obviously. Calgary at home this year is 7-2, and then Winnipeg on the road is 4-5. So already Calgary has the edge by being at home, but Winnipeg just did play on the road. So I guess on the road they would be 5-5 including the playoffs, because I don't think that was including last week's win. So I guess they're 5-5. So Calgary is 5-5 against teams in their division, which is actually kind of surprising. I would think they're like 10-0, but I think the West Division has been a bit like harder, and especially for Calgary, 5-5, right? And then Winnipeg is 4-6 against teams in their division. So both of the teams are kind of meh against their own division, just kind of like meh. Of course, Calgary's record is slightly better, but not by much. So now moving on to the points scored and then points allowed, points scored, points against. So Calgary has 522 points for and 363 points against. Including the win last week, Calgary has 573 points for, 437 points allowed. Without that last game, they have 550 points scored with 419 allowed. Now moving on to like the regular season matchups, there was only 2 games. So August 25th, the game was in Calgary, and Calgary did take that one 39-26. And then the rematch was October 26th in Winnipeg, where Winnipeg did take it 29-21. So the home teams took both games, and Calgary is at home this time, so yeah. So the teams are 1-1 against each other. So the last games played for both teams. So Calgary last played on November 3rd. I think that was like the regular season like finale game. They played in BC November 3rd, and they won 26-9. But prior to that, I think they lost 3 games in a row. So they still have lost 3 out of 4 games coming into this matchup, which is kind of concerning, but I mean, they're still like a really good team. They're at home. It's the Western Final. They know what this is. Like, they know that they can't lose now. They know it's important. Now, Winnipeg's last game played was obviously November 11th in Saskatchewan, the Western semifinal, where Winnipeg took it 23-18. So both teams have won 1 game in a row. Not really in a row, but yeah. So both teams have won their last game, but they lost the game before. But they're both on like really, it's not really a winning streak, but like when I say 1 game in a row just to kind of say, because then if I just say they won 1 game, it's like, what do you mean? So they both won their last game. So now moving on to a bit of stats. So Calgary hosts a playoff game for the 7th consecutive season, and is the 7th time they have made it to the Western Final. So basically every year they've made it to the Western Final at least. They have been a really good team. Calgary has a 34. Sorry. Oof. Calgary has a 34-20, 630.630 home playoff record. The last time they lost at home in the playoffs was in 2013 to Saskatchewan. Home teams in the Western Final are 27-19.587 since 1972. The Stampeders will be looking for their 3rd consecutive trip to the Grey Cup, which would be their 17th appearance. They're 7-9. They're with a .438 percentage of winning in the Grey Cup. The Stampeders have never made the Grey Cup 3 times in a row, and the last team to do so was Montreal from 2008 to 2010. So Calgary with the win, they'll make the Grey Cup for their 3rd straight year, and they've lost the last 2 consecutive years. So the last time the 2 teams met in the postseason was in the 2001 Grey Cup in Montreal. Calgary won 27-19, so that was 17 years ago, and now they're playing in the Western Final. Winnipeg has a playoff road record of 22-32.4407. The road team always has the worst record, but it doesn't mean that they can't win, you know what I mean? Like, obviously the home team's going to have a better record. That's usually how it is, at least. And the big story for Winnipeg is this is the Blue Bombers' first division final since 2011 when they defeated the Tigercats and made it to the Grey Cup. Since they returned to the West Division, this will be their first Western final since 2002 at Edmonton. The Blue Bombers are looking to make their 25th appearance in the Grey Cup, and their first time since 2011. The hell's in my... They have a record of 10-14, .417 in Grey Cup games. The two teams split the season series. Week 11 saw Calgary win at home 39-26. Like I already mentioned, while Winnipeg won their home game in Week 20, 29-21, which again I also mentioned. So now we're gonna go into like who has the edge. Then we're gonna look at the top 10 players or the top few players to look at for this division final, and then we're gonna do the numbers don't lie. Yeah. So first we're gonna go to head-to-head. Who has the edge in the Western Final? So, the 2018 season was a tale of two halves for the Calgary Stampeders and Winnipeg Blue Bombers, with two rivals apparently headed in opposite directions based off their late season results. While the Bombers have won 6 of 7, including an emotional playoff game on the road against the Saskatchewan Roughriders on Sunday night, the Stamps were barely treading above the 500 mark over the second half of the season, following an 8-1 start with a run of just 5 wins in 9 games. Statistically, the Stamps remain one of the most dominant teams in the CFL, leading the league in a number of categories on the defensive side of the ball while ranking first in the league in points allowed and second in points for. Conversely, the Bombers lead the CFL in points for and are second in points allowed, as two of the league's top scoring clubs are on a collision course. Like, this should be a really good game. Like, I thought Saskatchewan-Calgary would be, or Saskatchewan-Winnipeg would be a game. This is going to be a really good game, too. With not much separating these West Division foes on paper, the season series even resulted in a 1-1 split. CFL.ca takes a position-by-position look at the upcoming Western Final. So, quarterbacks. Matt Nichols is enjoying the best stretch of football in his career, winning 6 straight starts while throwing 8 touchdowns with just 1 interception in the process. The Bombers' pivot hasn't been picked off on his last 109 passing attempts, which is like really, that's amazing. On the other hand, Bo Levi Mitchell is on track to win the second most outstanding player award of his career, and is the CFL's all-time winning percentage leader. Sit back and enjoy the ride. The advantage obviously goes to Calgary for Bo Levi Mitchell. Moving on to running backs, Andrew Harris rushed for 123 yards in the second half alone in the Bombers' playoff win over Saskatchewan on Sunday evening. The CFL's most dominant all-around back can hurt you as a receiver, or he can just run it down your throat and carry an offense on his shoulders. The Stampeders have an impressive trio of young running backs led by Don Jackson, but there's no better back than Harris right now. The advantage goes to Winnipeg. Receivers. Injuries have devastated what was considered arguably the most talented group of receivers in the CFL in Calgary. Markeith Ambles and Chris Matthews have done a nice job stepping in, while DeVaris Daniels could be nearing a return, but it's hard for a new group to gel mid-season. The Bombers' receivers aren't spectacular, but they get the job done, led by an explosive Jarvin Adams and sure-handed Weston Dressler. They give the edge to Winnipeg, so the advantage goes to Winnipeg. The O-line. The Bombers' starters on the offensive line played in 86 of a possible 90 games this season, forming the healthiest and most cohesive group in the CFL in 2018. While the Stamps allowed a league-low 27 sacks, the Bombers gave up just 36 quarterback takedowns and owned the CFL's most productive rushing attack, averaging 134.9 yards per game on the ground. The league's best front 5 plays in Winnipeg, and the advantage also goes to Winnipeg. Now the D-line. Both of these defensive lines can get to the quarterback, tying the CFL lead with 45 sacks apiece. The difference is in the ground game, where the Stamps are a nightmare to run against, averaging a league-low 86.5 yards against per game. Jackson Jeffco and Tristan Okpalogo form a nice rush and duo for the Bombers, but Stamps defensive tackle Mika Johnson might be the most dominant defensive lineman in the CFL. The advantage will go to Calgary. Linebackers. With back-to-back seasons of 123 tackles, Alex Singleton is the best young linebacker in the CFL. Jameer Thurman continues to put up numbers for the Stamps as a will, while Jamar Wall adds a veteran presence at Sam. I still don't know what that stands for. The Bombers have an impressive group as well, but injuries to Adam Bighill, who may be limited, and Jovan Santos Knox, who may or may not play in the Western Final, could put Richie Hall's group in a serious bind. Calgary will take the advantage for that. Defensive backs. The Stamps and Bombers have the CFL's two stingiest passing defenses, allowing 7.2 and 7.6 yards per pass respectively. 24-year-old Marcus Sales has had a nice rookie season for the Bombers, and off-season additions Anthony Gator and Chandler Fenner have provided depth with Maurice Leggett sidelined. It's close, but the emergence of Trey Robertson and veteran presence of Emmanuel Davis have been the difference in Calgary, and the advantage goes to Calgary. The return game, whether it's Terry Williams or Ramar Morris back to receive, the Stamps have had one of the CFL's most explosive return games all season. Together, they've totaled 4 punt return touchdowns, with William finding the end zone 3 times. The Bombers counter with Kevin Fogg, who demonstrated on a 110-yard missed field goal return touchdown just how dangerous he can be. The advantage still goes to Calgary. And then the kicking game, Justin Medlock and Rene Paredes have passed the test of time as two of the league's most consistent kickers. Medlock's kicking numbers are slightly better this year, but the Stamps have the edge in the punting game with Rob Maver. Neither kicker is going to cost his team a game, making this one a push, so a tie. So that's who has the edge in like every position. Now moving on to 20 to watch in the division finals. So if you guys watched my last video, then you saw that I skipped some. So last time I only did the Hamilton Ottawa players. Now I'm obviously going to skip the Hamilton Ottawa players. And then for this one, I'm going to do only the Calgary and Winnipeg players. So 19, because number 20 is a Hamilton player. So Stanley Bryant and Jamarcus Hardrick for Winnipeg. Offensive linemen aren't going to get much play on a players to watch list, but the Bombers' tackles have helped power the CFL's most productive rushing attack, led by most outstanding Canadian nominee Andrew Harris. The Winnipeg's O-line is the lifeblood of the offense, and Jamarcus Hardrick and Stanley Bryant are a big part of that. 15, Darvin Adams for Winnipeg. There's no one on the Bombers' offense more likely to make a big play than Darvin Adams. I don't know if it's Darwin or Darvin. Winnipeg's top receiving option has 10 touchdowns this season and 9 plays of 30-plus yards, remaining the go-to option for Matt Nichols, even in an offense that usually favors the ground attack. I'll look for Adams to try and stretch the field against a tough Calgary defense. Number 12, Alex Singleton for Calgary. With 123 tackles in each of his 2 full seasons, Alex Singleton continues to set the standard for linebackers in the CFL. The leader of the Stamps defense has played a significant role in the team's defensive success and is noticeable on almost every snap he plays. The matchup with Bombers running back Andrew Harris is a top billing for the division finals. 11. Micah Johnson for Calgary. Micah Johnson makes the Stamps a nightmare to try and run the ball against, yet the big man in the middle can also get to the quarterback, ranking second in the league with 13 sacks. He's the most important cog in what's been the CFL's most consistently dominant defense over the last few years, yet remains one of the league's most underrated stars. Number 7 for Adam Bighill for Winnipeg. Adam Bighill's status for the division final is up in the air after he left last week's game and did not return. Bighill is the heart and soul of the Bombers' defense, racking up 104 tackles, 4 sacks, 2 interceptions, 4 forced fumbles, and a touchdown in his first season in Winnipeg. He's a menace to opposing offenses. Number 6, Eric Rogers for Calgary. Far and away the CFL's top receiver from 2014-2015, Eric Rogers hasn't been able to match that production since his return from the NFL. Still, he's flashed the same ability, proving nearly impossible to stop in one-on-one coverage while overcoming knee issues in his first season back with the Stamps. Can Rogers return to being the CFL's most dangerous pass catcher? I don't know, we'll see. Number 5 is Andrew Harris for Winnipeg. Andrew Harris put the Bombers on his shoulders, rushing for 126 yards in the second half alone to grind out a playoff road win over the Riders. He continues to prove why he's the CFL's most dominant running back, powering the league's top rushing attack and putting the Bombers on the brink of a Grey Cup return. Number 3 is Matt Nichols for Winnipeg. the quarterback. And Matt Nichols struck when the iron was hot in the Western semifinal, turning a Kevin Fogg interception into 6 points the other way on a touchdown pass to Drew Wolodarski. Nichols was nearly perfect, extending his streak to 109 attempts without an interception, while helping the Bombers win their first playoff game in 7 years. And number 2 is Bo Levi Mitchell, QB for Calgary. Bo Levi Mitchell has a good chance to win the second most outstanding player honor of his career, but has bigger goals in mind as he looks to advance to a third straight Grey Cup. Mitchell has put up strong numbers again in 2018, but his Stamps are 5-4 in the second half of the season and face a tough challenge against a surging Bombers team. And as I said in the first video, if you want to know what number 1 is, and number 1 is Trevor Harris, QB for Ottawa. I'm not going to read that. I already read that in the last video. So that's that. So now we're going to go into Numbers Don't Lie, 3 stats that will define the Western Final. So the Calgary Stampeders have been the model of consistency in the CFL over the last decade, not only boasting multiple 13-win seasons, but also appearing in several Grey Cups, including the previous 2. Their opponent on Sunday, however, is the hottest team in the CFL, the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, entering the 2018 Western Final with wins in 6 of their last 7 games, their only loss having come in a meaningless finale when they chose to rest starters. So they basically only lost because they rested their starters in a meaningless game. Over those 6 wins, the Bombers have outscored opponents by an average margin of 16 points per game. They've averaged 368.5 yards per game against their opponents' 284.5. Finally, they turned the ball over just 8 times in the process, forcing 23 turnovers for a differential of plus 15. There has been no better team in the league as of late, but running into a well-rested Stampeders team that has the best record in the CFL and is just 1 win away from reaching a 3rd straight Grey Cup. Will momentum make the difference? CFL.ca breaks down the Western Final, and the latest numbers don't lie. So number 1, Calgary. So number 1, can Matt Nichols stay interception free? The headline, and no loose change, the number, 109 passing attempts for Matt Nichols since his last interception. Matt Nichols has won his last 6 starts dating back to Week 15, completing 72% of his passes for 1,382 yards and 8 touchdowns in the process. What's most impressive, however, is that he's had such production without turning the football over, throwing just 1 interception over that span. Ball security has been a significant part of the Bombers' recent success, as the team has turned the ball over just 8 times in the span of 6 games. That was certainly a factor in the Western Semi, when the Bombers won a narrow 5-point contest with a 2-0 edge in turnovers, the difference being a second-quarter interception by Kevin Fogg. So, like, literally one play can make a difference, a huge difference. Through it all, Nichols has been nearly flawless. The Bombers' pivot is hovering around 9 yards per attempt over that span, an elite level of production, yet has managed to throw 109 passes without being intercepted. After throwing 2 interceptions against Calgary earlier this season, Nichols' stat line at the end of the game will be indicative of the final score. The Stamps tied for the most takeaways in the CFL with Winnipeg at 49, and won the turnover battle 11 times, going 11-0 in those games. Let's just say whoever, like in this game and the Eastern Final, whoever wins the turnover battle definitely has the edge in winning the game. So now moving on to number 2. Can the Stamps defense get off the field? The headline, first down, sets the tone. The number, 100 2-and-outs forced by the Stampeders in 2018. That's really, really good. So despite fading over the second half of the season, the Stampeders' defense remains one of the league's most statistically sound, ranking first in the league in average points allowed, 20.2, rushing yards, 86.5, yards per passing attempt, 7.2, and sacks, 45. When you add all of it up, the Stamps have forced 100 2-and-outs this season, the second most in the league, behind only Saskatchewan at 107. And yet Saskatchewan is out in the first round. That's weird. The ability to get off the field quickly has been a key aspect in Calgary's success, and will play a significant role in Sunday's Western Final as the 2 teams try to win the field possession battle. Sustaining drives and controlling the clock has been part of the Bombers' success as of late, but that can be difficult against a Calgary team that allows just 5.8 yards per play on first down, far and away the lowest total in the CFL. Head coach Mike O'Shea will talk about getting ahead of the chains, which means putting the offense in manageable second down situations and avoiding second and long. Everyone wants to avoid second and long. The Bombers need to get into that 2nd and 3 range, where they've converted a CFL best 73% of their attempts this season. Calgary's opponents have converted on second downs 44.3% of the time this season, but that success rate drops to 31% when the distance is 7 yards or greater, the second lowest total in the CFL in that situation. The Bombers, meanwhile, have converted 38% of attempts on second and long. Number 3, capitalize on mistakes. You always have to capitalize on turnovers when they happen, because they could only happen once or twice. Like in the Bombers thing, they said that the Bombers won 2-0. See, it just took 2. Like at the end of the game, you might think, hey, two turnovers, that's nothing. Yeah, but Winnipeg had none, and then those two turnovers did lead to points. So 3, capitalize on mistakes. The headline, the best offense is a good defense. The number, 158 Bombers points off turnovers in 2018, the most in the CFL. That's a lot of points. That's at least like 1/3 of the points they scored, I think. I don't know math, but yeah. So after finishing the regular season with a league-best 151 points off turnovers, it was no surprise that stat came into play once again in the Western semifinal. The Bombers added 7 more points off of a takeaway in that game, with Kevin Fogg's interception in the second quarter taking points off the board for the Riders, and eventually resulting in a touchdown the other way. With the game tied at 6 and the Riders threatening to score, Fogg's interception was the biggest play in the game, engineering at least a swing of 10 points. The Bombers would go on to score on Drew Wolodarski's 20-yard touchdown, taking a 13-6 lead that would never be relinquished. Despite possessing a middle-of-the-road offense when it comes to production, 368.3 yards per game, 5th in the CFL, the Bombers rank at the top of the league with 30.6 points per game, including a league-best 28.2 points per game from their offense. The biggest part of that discrepancy has been turnovers, with the Bombers racking up 49 takeaways with a plus-minus 13 turnover ratio, not including last week's outing. The Stampeders, of course, are in the same weight class, tying the Bombers in both takeaways and turnover ratio at the top of the CFL. Both teams, meanwhile, are 11-0 this year when winning the turnover battle. Outright. Call it cliche, but the defense that makes the big play will be the one that comes away with the W. It may only take one big turnover to make the difference. So basically, obviously, for any game, turnovers is a big issue. Like in every sport, turnovers is always turnovers, and usually when you win the turnover battle, you're most likely going to win the game. Especially if you take those turnovers and you like take advantage of them, meaning scoring points off them. That's like the main thing you have to do. Like if Hamilton doesn't get any and yes, I'm meaning to say Hamilton. I'm talking about the Eastern Final quick. If Ottawa makes even one turnover, Hamilton has to get 7 or 8 points from it, because I don't even know if that'll happen again. Like I don't know if the turnover will happen, and Hamilton really cannot turn the ball over. I think last week they turned it over once, and then they forced 6 turnovers, which is obviously 6-1. It's pretty obvious you're going to win the game, and then obviously the 48-8 win, and then obviously the 2-0 edge for Winnipeg in the turnover battle gave the Winnipeg Blue Bombers the 23-18 win. So that's the three stats that will define the Western Final. And now, I read this in my last video, but I'm going to read it here too, just in case you have not seen that video. So, CFL simulation, Stamps and Red Blacks favored as a Grey Cup matchup. This video is already Jesus Christ, this video is long. One thing appears to be certain according to CFL simulation this week, and that's the Ottawa Red Blacks appearing to have the edge over the Hamilton Tiger Cats in advancing to the Grey Cup out of the East Division. With 4 teams remaining in the Grey Cup playoffs, Ottawa holds the largest likelihood of advancing to Edmonton to compete for the right to hoist the championship trophy, as CFL simulation has the Red Blacks with a 70.58% chance of defeating the Tiger Cats in the Eastern Final. However, despite being heavily favored to make it to the 106th Grey Cup, Ottawa doesn't have the same fortune of being favored as the most likely team to be hoisting the trophy over their heads. That title goes to the Winnipeg Blue Bombers, who, although they aren't favored in the more likely championship matchup, is favored as the most likely to win the Grey Cup, 34.46% according to the simulation model. In that series of events, it would be their first championship since 1990, the league's longest championship drought. I know the Ticats last one in 1999, the year I was born. Winnipeg will be needing to get through a tough Calgary Stampeders team before they can even begin to worry about potentially planning their parade route. So true. The Stampeders, after finishing the season with the league's best record, along with ranking high in multiple team and individual statistical categories, rank in the matchup with the highest odds of occurring. That's according to the simulation following the semifinal round of the playoffs. But Dave Dickinson, coach of the Stampeders, said so himself earlier this week. This is the CFL and anybody can beat anybody. And that's the thing. This is the CFL. In the CFL, anything can happen. Like Hamilton can be the worst in every aspect, and Ottawa can be the best, and Hamilton could win. You just don't know. So yeah, he said so himself. This is the CFL and anybody can beat anybody. But the answers to these questions will soon be answered, along with just how close the odds were in yet another edition of CFL simulation. Let's take a look at the odds. So odds to meet in 106th Grey Cup. Calgary, Ottawa, 36.03%. And this is like the matchups. So Calgary, Ottawa, 36.03% chance. Winnipeg, Ottawa, 34.55% chance. Calgary and Hamilton, 15.11%. Winnipeg, Hamilton, 14.32%. Odds to appear in the 106th Grey Cup. So the team, Ottawa is first place, 70.58% chance. Calgary is 51.14%. And Winnipeg is 48.86%. And Ticats are dead last, 29.42% chance to appear in the Grey Cup. But that's what I mean. This is the CFL. Hamilton may be last, but they may make it to the Grey Cup game. And I really hope they do, because I have not seen them in the Grey Cup in 4 years, and I've never seen them win a Grey Cup ever. Odds to win the 106th Grey Cup. So Winnipeg has the highest chance to win with a 34.46% chance. Ottawa is second place, 27.36%. Calgary is third, 27.22%. So Ottawa and Calgary are very close, like literally just like 0.15% or 1.4 or 0.14. And Hamilton is last with a 10.96% chance of winning the Grey Cup. But again, this is the CFL. They could win. I don't know. We'll see. So the model considers the following: each team's current win-loss record, opponents already played, including whether it was a home or away game, margin of victory or loss in games previously played in the season, remaining opponents to be played, including whether those games are home or away. Most recent results. A recent win is weighted more heavily than a win back in week 1, for example, obviously. The model calculates each team's probability of victory in each remaining game. It then simulates 10,000 replications of the remaining regular season schedule. The first place team in each division is the one with the most regular season wins. For each replication, the model keeps track of which team finished first. For instance, if Winnipeg finished first in the West Division in 1,990 of the 10,000 replications, then its first place probability is 1,990 over 10,000, which is a 19.90%. The model is updated weekly based on the results of games played that week. So basically what it's talking about right here, about like the 10,000 replications, I have no idea what it's saying, because like probability, like, I don't know, like replications, like 1,000, like I don't know what that means. But regardless, for instance, if Winnipeg finished first in 1,990 of the 10,000 replications, then it's a 19.90%, whatever the fuck that means. Anyway, so now I've given you all my previews for both games. Now, what's my pick? Well, on CFL Pick'em, you cannot choose playoff games. I always thought you could, but like right now, if I go and then I click Make Picks, then it just shows me everything. It just shows week 1, week 2. So you cannot predict playoff games, which sucks. I'm pretty sure you were able to before. But anyway, I do think that Calgary will take this game, because yes, Calgary is at home. I think they have the better edge. Apparently Winnipeg has the better edge in winning the whole thing. So it's really confusing, because then I think, because Calgary and Ottawa is like the favored matchup, and I'm pretty sure they played in 2016 together, Calgary and Ottawa, where Ottawa won. To be honest, I do kind of want Calgary to win this game. I wouldn't mind seeing Winnipeg in the finals, though, but then if Hamilton wins, then, yeah. I don't know. I just do kind of see Calgary winning this game over Winnipeg. I'm not going to count out Winnipeg, though, just like in the Eastern Final. I'm not going to count out Hamilton. It's just because Calgary does seem like the better team, and Ottawa, and they seem the most likely to play in the Grey Cup together. For all we know, it could be the complete opposite. For all we know, it'll be Hamilton Winnipeg. You never know. You just gotta wait and see. Like, it's the CFL. Anything can happen. But anyway, guys, I hope you guys like this video. Again, if you are still here at this point in time, 30 minutes into this video, you are a true fan. Thank you so much for watching this video. The next video you should see me doing is, I was going to say a CFL prediction video, but which it will be. It will be the Grey Cup game, most likely. It should be the Grey Cup game, like, prediction. And hopefully Hamilton is one of those teams. If not, at least we made it to the Eastern Final. It's still definitely a step up from last year. Not making the playoffs at all, to a 48-8 win, like, to making the playoffs, to a 48-8 semifinal win. And then hopefully they keep it close, or maybe even have some leads in Ottawa. And if they do have some leads, they cannot blow it like they did last time. I don't know if you guys remember, but Hamilton was like pretty close to winning that game. The game in Ottawa, I think it was like the second the second regular. It was the second matchup of Ottawa Hamilton. Hamilton was up by 16. They were up like 22-6 or something, and then they blew it, and then they lost 35-31. They cannot be doing that in the playoffs. They cannot turn the ball over. And again, I talk way too much. My voice is going to hurt. I've already basically talked for a combined 65 minutes now for both of these videos. I don't even know if anybody's going to watch these, but I mean, I'm still doing my part. I'm still making the videos, so if you guys don't want to watch, well, it's not my fault. I'm still doing my part. So anyway, guys, I'll see you guys in the next video. I do not know if there's going to be like a vlog on it anytime soon. Today I am off. Tomorrow I am off, but then I work Friday, Saturday, which sucks, but whatever. This is actually going to be the first Saturday that I'm working. Like, I've never worked a Saturday. I've worked every single day but a Saturday. I've worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a Sunday, and then this is going to be my first Saturday. So once I work this Saturday, then I will have worked every single day of the week at some point. Anyway, guys, again, I hope you guys like this video. Like, comment, subscribe for more videos. And by the way, for the Grey Cup game, I will be, oh, and by the way, once again, I did book off the 18th, because that's going to be, obviously, the more playoffs, and then, of course, like, the Grey Cup game is going to be the 25th, so I did book off those 2 days, along with the 11th that I booked off, because I'm not going to miss any of these playoff games. Like, I cannot, especially since, like, if I went to work that day, the day that Hamilton won 48-8, I would feel like I totally missed out. And now, I mean, at least I've seen them in the playoffs in person. I've actually witnessed a playoff game in person. I can sure as hell guarantee I'm not going to be in Ottawa for that game, obviously. So there's not going to be any vlog for that. But of course, like, you will see me probably a week from now talking about the Grey Cup game. And I probably will record the final few minutes of the Grey Cup game. And if there is an overtime, I will also record the overtime. Anyway, guys, I will see you guys in the next video. I talk way too much. Thank you so much for watching. Once again, like, comment, subscribe. Tell me your predictions down below. Tell me if you want me to do any other videos. And yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, and may the best team win and advance to the Grey Cup. See you guys. Thanks for watching.